We've got three college and career facilitators, one at each of our comprehensive high schools. Miss Lolani is at Eaton High School. Um, Her office is in the counseling suite there at Eaton, and she is just absolutely fantastic. One of the sweetest ladies that you will ever meet. Miss Furlow is at Northwest High School. Her office is in the temporary counseling suite, but I believe over Thanksgiving break, they're going to move all of them down to the other side of the building where the admin offices and stuff are going to be, and they'll have a ghost center and all of that again. And then she should be there next to the ghost center. And Miss Davidson is at Byron Nelson High School, and she is also in the counseling suite right there next to the ghost center. I don't know why there's random letters there on Miss Davidson's picture or her information, but um, it's there. Here's on the right hand side just a list of some of the things that they can help out with. Um, they really do spend a lot of their time helping kids get through the TSI process and get through the TCC registration process. That's probably the bulk of where they're spending their time. But they can also help if a student needs to call a college, to sit down there with the student and help them make that call. Because y'all know our kids are nervous about making those direct phone calls sometimes because they're very used to texting, whereas I'm really good at ignoring texts. And again, the link that should be going to this presentation is there on the bottom. And I think we've got it a few other times throughout the presentation. So if you miss it now, it should be there later.
And then we also have a couple of students joining us. I know Ashami's on the way. She had some dance practice this evening. But Camille, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Sure. I'm Camille Hashim. I'm a senior at Byron Nelson High School. As it says below, I have taken a few advanced academics courses, and I'm excited to share some information and my perspectives on it.
Awesome. And then I don't know
Camille, I
if,
love the hat in the picture.
Well, thank you.
It's very dapper.
and like I said, Ashami is she'll be joining us soon. I know she just emailed me to say she was on her way wrapping up dance and about to log in, but she's also um at Byron, a senior at Byron. And these are just two of our advanced academics ambassadors. We have some at all three of our traditional high schools, and they are really they are spreading the word about advanced academics and what all that means, and what's the difference between taking an AP class and an OnRamps class, and things like that. And so they're gonna, like I said, share their perspectives. Oh, and so here's Ms. Ashami. If you would like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ashmi and I'm a senior at Byron Nelson High School. I'm a student in the architecture pathway. I'm also doing dance. I've done quite a few advanced academics classes throughout my high school career. I've done on-ramps classes, I've done AP classes. I know what it's like to be under the AP test pressure. And when it comes to like choosing, it's pros and cons for each. So I'm very excited to be talking about both of those today.
Ashmi, are you driving?
I am in the car, I am not driving.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
that's
I was going to get on to you if you were driving and zooming.
No, I was not.
Okay. I
I
won't
am
do it.
sorry for being in the car during this meeting, though.
No,
that
that's
is
that's
okay.
quite all right. We appreciate you joining us.
Yeah. So, really, what our goal is tonight is just to really talk about these different types of classes that students can take. We'll talk a little bit about AP or advanced placement, on ramps, dual credit. Hear from the kids about how do I choose? How do I know which one is the best, pathway for me? And then talk a little bit more about just that Texas College Core curriculum and what that is and how kids can start to make progress on that while they're still in high school. And there is a chat feature, so feel free to throw questions in there as we get going. Um, so really kind of the pathway to advanced academics really kind of starts in middle school. We offer a variety of honors classes. If you have older kids, they may have gone and sat in a pre-AP class, but the name has changed a few years ago. But we have honors in all four content areas: ELA, science, social studies, and math. And those are available starting in sixth grade. And you don't, it's not one of those things where, like, if you don't start in sixth grade, you can never do it again, but it's just a really good starting place. And those classes are designed so that as students go into AP or OnRamps or dual credit, they've been learning some of those skills along the way, so that when they're in that college level class, it's not too much of a shock. The kind of caveat to that is math, because the way we do honors math, it is an accelerated version. So if you don't start in an honors math class in sixth grade, it's not, well, let me say this. If you start with honors, you can end up in calculus as a senior. If you don't start in honors, you can get to calculus as a senior. You might just have to do a little extra work, like take a placement exam during the summer, or take a couple of math classes at the same time when you're in high school. So it's doable. You might have to do a little bit of extra work. But that's really where the journey to advanced academics starts, is in middle school, with these options to kind of help get you thinking and doing work at that level. And then just to kind of let you know that, of course, GPA is an important thing to a lot of students. And this kind of just gives a visual of how things are weighted. That level 4, which is that AP, that dual credit, that OnRamps, it's going to count a little bit more because you're doing college level work, right? It's at a much more intense pace. Important to know that as a district, we will use GPA to determine that class rank, that weighted GPA. But once students start to apply for colleges, typically what colleges do is they're going to take away that weight, and they're going to look just at that clean GPA without any weighting to it. It just makes it more consistent across when they're looking at kids from all over the country. Let's see. All right. Oops, sorry. I think I went a little too fast there.
Skip over some.
Yeah, sorry. And it's
I can talk TSI.
Please talk TSI, yes.
I'll talk
try and get
TSI.
this fixed.
So one of the tests that students have to take in order to take dual credit classes is the TSI. They can be exempt from TSI with their SAT or ACT score, if that's high enough. But it stands for the Texas Success Initiative Assessment. And we've got the 2 next to it because it's a newer version of the test. They've updated it and changed the scoring and stuff not too long ago. But not all Texas college students have to take the TSI. Like I said, if they've met college readiness on SAT or ACT, they don't need to take it. If you're going to a private school, SMU and those schools don't typically require TSI. They're not as impressed with those as they are with the SAT and ACT. Same thing is true with scholarships. Scholarships are more likely looking at SAT, ACT scores than they are caring about the TSI scores. But any student that wants to take dual credit does have to take the TSI. And I apologize. That is my puppy Diogi saying hello. Here's the scoring requirements. For math, it's pretty cut and dry. You score a 950 to a 990, and you're considered college ready. Or if you don't score at least that 950, if you make a 6 on the diagnostic questions, then you could be considered college ready. So, only problem with the diagnostics is it gives you an extra 48 questions that you have to go through. Where if you get it right the first time, you only have to do the 20. For English, it's a little bit more convoluted. They have to score a 945 to a 990 and score an essay or make an essay score of a 5 through 8. Or they can score below that 945 and score a 5 or 6 on the diagnostic, but they still have to have the essay score of 5 through 8. So a little bit different there between the two tests and the way they're graded. So you've got kind of got some ifs, ands, or buts in the English one. It used to be that in order to take the essay portion of the test, you had to score at least that 5, 6 on the diagnostic to get the essay. But now they let us break it up so students don't have to take them all together like they used to. So it's a nice change. It will help, I think, some students not have to sit and test for as long and deal with that stress. Here's the ACT and SAT scores required. ACT, actually, Audra, we should have updated this one. This one is not correct for ACT. They've changed it now. There's no composite score. I'm going to say it's 40 for English, and I want to say 23 for math, but it could be 19 for math. I'm going off the top of my head on that one. So I apologize for not getting that updated. I missed it. And then for SAT, it's a 530 for the math or 480 and a 480 for the English portion.
Sorry, I think I moved too fast.
Nope, that's okay. I'm finished with this one.
Okay, so one of the advanced academics options that we offer in Northwest is advanced placement. And as parents, some of you guys might have taken this when you were in high school. This has definitely been around for quite a while. It is through the College Board. It's college level courses, and students do the work throughout the year, earning a grade, on their report card. But then when it comes time to earn college credit, they take an exam. The exams are offered the first 2 weeks of May. And so they take an exam. It's 2 to 3 hours, kind of varies. And then they get their scores during the summer, depending on the score, depending on where they're going to go to college. A 3, 4, or 5 is considered kind of either passing or really college credit worthy. And so that's kind of the goal, is for a student to get a 3, 4, or 5. That being said, for a student who doesn't get one of those scores, the fact that they take the test is really a great accomplishment, and it really helps them be prepared for life after high school. We are really fortunate in Northwest to offer a ton of different AP classes. This is what we offer. I think it comes to about 28. And there's probably about, I don't know, maybe 6 AP courses that we don't currently offer. So we offer the bulk of them. And you can see there's a little bit of something for everybody. The two that are highlighted under the electives, AP Capstone Seminar and then Research, it's really like a 2-year program. It is currently at Byron, and we are working to get it at Eaton and Northwest next year, because it's really two of the absolute best AP classes that any student can take. But you can just see that there's a lot for the science-minded kid or the English-minded kid, the kid who loves history. There's just a wide variety. To talk just a little bit about that seminar and research, it's called the AP Capstone. It's a diploma program. Like I said, it's really based 2 years, and it's typically like a junior senior type of class, but it's really it's very interdisciplinary, where kids are researching, they're collaborating, they're presenting. There's a lot of it is really put on the student in terms of managing their time and knowing, oh, I've got to like come up with this plan and do this research and pose this question and create this product and then present it to a panel. And so it's really I think it's the absolute best class that we offer that is going to get any student ready for not just college, but the workforce, the military, anything like that. The skills that students walk away with is it's pretty comprehensive. Like if I could make every child take this class, I would. That's how much I believe in it. But like I said, it's offered right now at Byron, and we are working to get it offered at Eaton and Northwest. And so if it sounds like something your student wants to do, they really need to talk to their counselor about it. In terms of, okay, well, how does this impact like my high school grade, my college grade? It won't impact a high school grade or your rank. I mean, it impacts your rank in terms of the fact that it's weighted and whatever grade you earn, but the college, whether you get college credit or not, won't affect your high school grade. When you take an exam, you have to have those test scores added to your college transcript that comes from the College Board. Sometimes a school may say, okay, if you want to add these AP scores, you can, but it's going to cost you, X amount of money to do that. But you can do that. You can also opt not to include an AP score. Like if you're like, oh, I, didn't do too well on my AP English exam. I don't want a college to see that. You don't have to do that. But that's what determines credit for college. And that will where you go to college and what your major is will impact the kind of credit that college gives you. The example we like to use quite a bit is A&M. A&M is really popular for our students who want to be engineers, especially. And so a lot of those kids are taking calculus their junior or their senior year because they are an engineering type of person and very math focused. They a lot of times will get that college credit, a 4 or a 5. And they'll send their, that AP score to A&M, and A&M will be like, oh, congratulations. We're so proud of you. That's great. Welcome. Come be an engineer. But we really need you to take our calculus because that our calculus is the foundation of all our engineering courses. And so we will give you elective credit for your AP score, but you still have to take our calculus. So those are just kind of, that's something to be aware of is, does the college I want to go to accept this AP score? How do they accept it? Am I still going to need to take their version of the class? Things like that. That being said, even if you get college credit or you take a class and maybe you don't even get college credit, but then you take that class at a university, you are going to be much more successful in that class at the college level because you've already had that experience and you have such a strong foundation. And so even when you don't get college credit from an AP exam, the benefits are still going to help you be successful in college. And so these are some of the pros and cons that we have come up with. Again, the credit's going to vary by college. It's one of the great pros about it is it's taught by our teachers and following our grading guidelines. You're going to get a heavier weight because you're doing college level work. And AP is, well regarded across not just Texas, but across the country and really outside of the country. There are a lot of international universities that will accept AP credit as well. So people know what you're talking about when you say, oh, I have AP credit in this course. What we want to do now is hear from our two students who have definitely taken quite a few AP classes. And then these are just some guys, if you just want to kind of use these as prompts and tell us a little bit about what do you enjoy about AP classes? Do you have a favorite that you've taken? What's maybe something that's been a challenge in taking an AP class, but then what's also allowed you to be successful?
So if I could take the first question,
Yeah.
I'll say the best thing about AP classes is the college readiness that it provides. Like it really gets you ready for the course load, the speed of how concepts are taught, and other things like that. And the accreditation, like what Miss Rowell was saying, it's very widely accepted. So even if you're planning to go out of state, and to different universities, AP is very well recognized and it gets you ready for college courses. And while it may not be uh, used as a replacement for a class, it can definitely get you ready to take that class. Like if you take a calculus class as an AP and then you take it later on in a college, you're already going to have a head start because a lot of the course curriculum is very similar.
I can take the next one. So, the hardest thing about taking an AP class for me, I would say it's just I do truly believe that the AP exams are a lot easier than the class itself because the class is preparing you for any questions, right? The teachers, they don't know what is going to be on that test. So, the hardest thing I would say is probably just like sometimes it can be hard to grip what the course is about because it is a college level class that you are taking as a high schooler. So if you're like an A plus student or at least strive to be like I do, and then you see like a B on your grade, it's just kind of hard to understand that, oh, this is different because I'm not taking the same level class. But if I would be talking about tips, I would say to do your readings, just do your assignments because when teachers assign you stuff, it really does lead up to what you're going for, like the test, even the unit test. So if you just honestly just do your work, then it really does help. And it will require more work than a normal class does. But just putting in a little extra effort, communicating with your teachers, it goes a long way.
There are a couple of questions in the chat. One is, isn't there a cost to take the AP exam? And yes, there is. It's about $100. The district pays a portion of that cost, um, and so that helps bring it down. Uh, and then I think when my daughter added her AP scores to her transcript at college, it was like 50 something dollars per course that she added. And like Ms. Ralph said, we only added the courses she needed. And then when she changed majors, we went back and added a few more courses because she took some social studies courses that she didn't need originally. But then when she switched over from engineering to humanities, that worked. And then our AP classes and dual credit classes weighted the same. And yes, they're both weighted the same.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything else you want to say about AP classes?
Sure. So for the third question, and this is something that gets asked a lot. And the general response that I found helpful is that it's all about balance. So it's the number of AP classes is not necessarily a reflection of how hard they are. Like if you take classes like physics or a calculus or classes like that are AP, you might want to take two or three classes that you really like rather than just loading as many AP classes as you can. And I've heard from people that did do stuff like that. It's very hard to manage and it does not end well. So the best way to do it, at least what I found, is find what you like. Maybe between 10th and 11th grade, like try out a few AP classes. And then in senior year, then you can really figure out exactly which classes you want to take a lot of, and then which ones not so much AP. Like I'm much better at math and science, and that's why I also want to become an engineer. That's the major I want to go into. So I'm not as strong as in things like history or English. So I did leave some of those as non-AP so that I can focus better on the classes that I did like, and it turned out well.
I think that's a really good point, because and I actually had this conversation with a student last year, because I looked at he had picked like I think 5 or 6 AP classes for his junior year, and I was like, that's a lot. That's a lot. And when I explained to him that if you think about the fact that like when you're in college and you're taking a course, it's like 3 hours of credit, right? Um, so, like, typically in college, you might take 4 or 5 classes in one semester, and that equates to 12 or 15 hours. That's considered a full load. And so, when I was talking to this student, I was like, you're wanting to take 6 AP classes. That is the equivalent of 18 college hours. And you're also involved in like these extracurricular activities. And it's not like, in college where you go to class for 3 hours of the week and then you have the rest of the time to like study, like you're literally in school all day. And when I explained it to him, he was like, oh, that makes sense. So I think that that word balance is really an important piece. Is yes, take these challenging classes, but make it balance with what else you have going on in your life.
Um, Audra, there is another question that came in. It's not AP related, but I want to go ahead and um, answer that one. The question is, why were the freshmen required to only sit for the TSI English portion? I don't even believe that they did the diagnostics. I have one freshman and one junior. My junior is currently taking 3 OnRamps classes. How did you manage to do that without taking the TSI, ACT, or SAT?
Hmm.
So the first part of that, the freshmen, we only did the English portion because we were doing it during the PSAT, and the TSI itself to do the English and the math just takes longer than the PSAT um, time would take, and so just for space and that ability to juggle it, we only asked them to do that one portion. Byron Nelson did the English and the essay. Um, Northwest did not, but that was because they didn't have a place to move students that needed extra time because they don't have a lecture hall right now until the construction of that part finishes up. And Eaton did not because I believe they had a freshman meeting that they needed to go to. So we will get back and get the freshmen to do that essay portion. We also didn't have them do the math because the math on TSI is really algebra 2 level, geometry algebra 2 level. And so many of our freshmen haven't had that level of math yet. Some have, but many wouldn't be ready to do well on the math test. But they can certainly take it if they want to. They can sign up and take it during the school day. Each campus offers it several times. Um, so there's definitely some opportunities. The OnRamps question, OnRamps does not require TSI in order to take it. Now we are moving in that direction to require students to take TSI as a district in order to take OnRamps. But like for now, we're requiring, or for next year, we're requiring that they take the TSI before they finish their first English or math OnRamps class in order to continue on. So we've made some adjustments there, but yeah, OnRamps doesn't require it. So that's why we haven't in the past. So hopefully that answered and made sense. We will get them on the math later though as they get a little bit older. Oh, wait, and there was another thing about the diagnostic. The diagnostic is automatic if a student doesn't do well enough on the original multiple choice part. But if they do score college ready, then they won't see the diagnostic piece. So if they didn't see it, that should mean that they scored above the minimum score. Okay, Audra, go ahead.
Okay. All right, let's move on to dual credit.
Okay, dual credit. Let me move chat windows out of the way so I can see what I have here. So I've talked a little bit about dual credit already in that part about the TSI. Dual credit really does mean that a student is getting high school credit for a college class. And a lot of times we like to make it sound like they're in high school taking a class and also getting college credit, but it really is the reverse of that. They're taking a college class and happen to be getting high school credit for it. And that said, it's college college grading policies, college attendance policies, college teachers. They can't talk to parents about student grades unless the students complete a FERPA form giving parents access or the ability to talk to them. And even then, usually TCC teachers won't talk to a parent about a student or their grades without the student present, at least on the phone. It's just how it works in college, and whether they're a freshman taking a dual credit course or a senior taking a dual credit course, they're considered adult students as soon as they enroll in a college class. That's how the college looks at them. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the next slide, Audra. Um, Here I just pulled an example of one of our college courses that's listed in the academic planning guide, just because I wanted you to see what's there. So we've got this is Stars and Galaxies. I'm a Trekkie, so that's why I chose this one. But you've got the course name, and that's the course name with the college. And then the next thing is the course number. So Physics 1403 is the course number. And then after that, you see the high school credit that it counts for. And it says Astronomy A, and the A means that it's first semester. So they get what a half they would get a half semester or a full semester of credit, but not a full year of credit for Stars and Galaxies. There's another version or another second semester course. Um, D is the high school course description. Um, E is the number of high school credits. So you can see it's the 0.5, so it's a semester of credits. F is what grade level eligibility, so it's for 11th and 12th graders. The weight, you can see it's weighted level 4, so that would be weighted equal with AP. And then the prerequisites there are uh, the TSI English and Math for this course. Audra, will you click? I think it should circle oh, I guess it didn't. Well, okay, go back. The 4 in the course number 1403, that is the number of college credit hours that class is worth. So that's the way TCC does their numbering system. So if it's a 14, then it's a 4-hour course. If it's a 13 or a 23, then it's a 3-hour course. Okay, go ahead, Audra. I think I talked about this pretty much, but just want to make sure that everyone understands that if you're taking a college class, whatever grade you get in that college class is what goes on your high school transcript. But even more importantly, what you get in that on that dual credit class goes on your college transcript. And I always say, growing up, I remember in the sitcoms and stuff, they would always talk about your permanent record. Something's going to go on your permanent record. And the reality is, your permanent record, unless it's criminal, for the education side of your permanent record is just college. There's really nothing permanent about your high school um, records or anything like that. But once you get to college, that's what's going to go with you into the workplace and all of that. So just an important thing to keep in mind. If you're going to sign up for a dual credit class, you need to make sure that you're doing the dual credit class because they won't just always just drop you from the class, and they won't give you a second chance a lot of times. So I'm ready. Here's just kind of a recommended dual credit course sequence. Ashmi and Camille, did either of you, I can't remember, did y'all take dual credit
I'm in the process, but have not taken one yet.
for next semester?
Winter, actually.
Oh, okay. A winter semester.
Yeah.
Ashmi, how about you?
I've only ever taken on-ramps and AP, never
Okay.
TCC. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking from the little bio that we had pulled up, but I was like, I'm gonna ask just in case because I wasn't 100% sure. Um, the reason we break these out like this is because the courses that they connect with, dual credit was originally written for 11th and 12th grade. The state of Texas came back and said, well, we're okay with ninth and 10th graders doing it. Um, but then we kind of run into okay, you can take English 1301 as a ninth grader. Technically, I guess you could, but it counts as English 3. And you can't take English 3 until you've taken English 1 and 2. So it really doesn't help in that regard. So that's kind of why they fall heavier in 11th and 12th grade. But ninth graders can take art appreciation or intro to speech. They've all come from eighth grade where they just took a professional communications class. So intro to speech is certainly within reach and something that they can do. It isn't needed for their high school transcript because they already have that grade from eighth grade, but it still is required for the core, what we used to call the basics. So it's not a wasted class for students to take it. It is one of the core classes, and then Texas government is one that most state colleges in Texas are going to require. But if you're going to go out of Texas, it's a waste of your time and money to take Texas government because every state's got their own government and they all want you to take their version of it. So, okay, go ahead. And then on the screen, you see some pros and cons of dual credit. I think one huge pro right now is that tuition is free. TCC has decided to participate in that program that where the state covers the cost of tuition for students. They don't cover the cost of textbooks and any class fees. But for students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, we cover the cost of their textbooks um, and if there's any fees related to it. So, um, again, another nice little plus there for it. Some negatives. I think the biggest negative, and y'all can read what's on the screen, so I'm not going to read them all to you, but the biggest one is that it it isn't taught by our teachers. Most of the time, we've got a teacher at Byron, I think, teaching dual credit outside of the culinary. Culinary is our teachers as well. And I think we've got two teachers at Eaton, and we don't have any at Northwest this year who are teaching dual credit. So the rest of our students are taking dual credit classes online. And I think that online piece is probably the biggest negative to it is that they don't get to see the teacher and know the teacher and build that relationship that is really important for learning to happen. Okay, you can go ahead. And our students aren't taking any dual credit classes right now. But I think it's a fair question. Why might you choose on-ramps over dual credit?
My main answer for that is it depends on what you want it for. So as far as college credit goes, AP classes again are accepted very widely everywhere. So if you're planning to go out of state, AP is probably your best bet. On-ramps, however, you don't have to take the test. A lot of people really like that. Uh, I am okay as a test taker, so I was looking at which classes I was really interested in that I felt I could take the test well. That way I could get the college credit for, and then which ones I felt I wanted to spend more time on the coursework side of it. That's usually throughout the year. And also, TCC is generally a bit easier to deal with, I've heard from a lot of people. So for starting out, I guess TCC would be a good idea to start with. And I'm going to be taking a few TCC classes. In some classes that I wasn't necessarily willing to go through the AP version of it, but I still wanted a sort of college credit and college level for it. So TCC was a very good fit for me. One advice I would say though for on-ramps is generally to stay to consider about classes that have science classes that have labs because the professors that are doing on-ramps, the way that they grade labs and the way that they do labs, especially for things like physics, it is a bit difficult. So for science classes that have labs in them, if it's between on-ramps and AP, I would personally recommend AP.
I
I,
agree with Camille. I'm so sorry, did I cut
no,
you
no,
off?
you go ahead. You go ahead.
I agree with him about specifically about the lab thing. Like I'm currently in on-ramps physics, and my UT Austin grader just did something with my lab, so I have to like go through a whole process to get my grade fixed and everything. So that is definitely a drawback of on-ramps or even just dual credit. That communication with professors who are grading your work can be hard. Um, while in AP, you can get one-on-one feedback, as in, what did I do wrong and what can I do to improve, right? Which is just not as easy to do when you're taking like on ramps or dual credit. When it comes to choosing, I do, like Camille said, it comes down to like the test. Depends if you're a good test taker or not. And it's not even just that, it's also depending on the subject. Like, there's AP versus on ramp pre cal, but I chose on ramp pre cal because I wasn't too sure that I would be able to get a good grade on the AP pre-cal test because it's just so many formulas and just so much that you have to remember. So it just kind of, you have to think about your personal strengths and weaknesses, what matters more to you, and then weigh them out. Kind of just like, do I want to be more focused on the schoolwork? Am I okay with that, or do I prefer to take the test rather than just not have communication? So that's kind of where it all comes down to.
And one of the things that Camille said at the beginning of his statement there was um, about AP being recognized um, more broadly, and I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. If you're going to go out of state, AP is definitely more recognized than um, dual credit. Now, um, OnRamps is a UT transcript, and most colleges worldwide are going to see University of Texas at Austin and be impressed by the transcript because it's not going to say that it's a UT OnRamps. It's just a UT transcript. So I think that they would be impressed by it, but I also think that um, there is some still weight behind what Camille said about AP being recognized more fully, even in that case, than coming in with a high school um, class or a college transcript, but as a high school graduate, because they know that you were taking a dual credit class, and even though it's still the same rigor as any UT Austin class, colleges recognize that. So it really depends on what you're wanting to do for that. And I do see another question about the TSI. I'm going to come back to that one. Um, and then the one was on ramps covered before AP. Nope, um, we just got there. So, or we're just getting there. And you can go ahead and click next. So on ramps is dual enrollment. So the reason we say dual enrollment instead of dual credit is because you get a college grade and a high school grade, and they're not always the same grade. In fact, they're rarely the same grade. I see many times a student will get an A in the high school class, and they get a B or C, or worse in the college class. And that's because in the college class, your grade may be built on or based on one or two assignments, depending on the class that you're taking. Whereas the high school class is intended to, or the high school side of it is intended to support that college learning and to provide kind of that foundational piece. Plus, they're following the high school grading or the Northwest ISD grading guidelines. So that means that they're allowing retakes, they're taking some late work, things that the college side won't do. So it does help to increase their high school grade. So definitely something to keep in mind on the on-ramp side is that the grade that you see as a parent when you look at your students' grades is not their college grade. It's only their high school grade. And I get that question a lot where a parent will say, well, my student got an A in the class. And I look and I'm like, actually, they didn't get an A, they got a C and they declined the credit. So, and that's another piece of on-ramps that I think we're going to talk about in one of the upcoming slides. Um, Talked about the transcript piece a little bit, but you will have that UT Austin transcript if the student accepts the grade. On-ramps really is the ultimate mulligan of the college world because students can take the class. At the end of the class, they see what the grade is that would go on their transcript, and they can say, yes, I want this grade, or no, I don't want this grade to happen or to show. And once they make that decision, they've got like a 5-day window where they can change their mind multiple times. But once they've made that decision and the window closes, there's no changing it. We've had students leave us and go to UT Austin and decide, hey, I really would like to take this on ramps grade. And so UT Austin reached out to UT Austin, and they were told, no, we can't because we have no record of it. Because once the student says no, it truly is gone. And we, as a high school, don't have a record of it either because they only give us their grades if they accept them. So go ahead. Here are the recommended on-ramps courses and the grade levels to take them. Um, College algebra kind of depends on when you're ready for college algebra. We do have some students who are taking algebra 2 in uh, eighth grade. And so if you're an eighth grader taking algebra 2, you can take on-ramps college algebra because it counts as algebra 2. So whenever you're ready for algebra 2, that's when it's a good time to take college algebra. And on-ramps college algebra is intended to be a good introduction to the world of on-ramps and how to take a college class online. On-ramps really did think through that process. And if a student has a really good teacher, they're holding their hand kind of through that process and helping them out. I'd say that we've got the same thing on the AP side with AP Human Geography. It's intended to be a really good introduction to the AP world. Kids can be successful on that test, and it's a shorter test, so they both kind of have that same measure there. You'll see that I've got on-ramps rhetoric in 11th grade. That really depends on when a student wants to take it. They can take on-ramps rhetoric and have it count or as junior English, or they can take it as their senior and have it count as senior English. The plus side of taking it as a junior is that you can turn around and take Brit Lit or American Lit, and for just a semester of one of those courses, you get a full year of high school English 4. So a lot of students like to jump on that because it opens up their schedule a little bit to take something else. So, do y'all want to talk about on-ramps for a minute? I know you kind of already touched on it, but
Yeah. On Rams, it's I do agree with you with what you said about college algebra being like a good little introductory class because compared to like on Rams classes that I'm taking right now versus college algebra, it was not way different, but definitely a lot easier. With on ramps, what can be something that's really confusing at times is there are two portals. You have like a high school side, and then you have a UT Canvas, right? So you have to make sure that you're on track for both. Sometimes your teacher may mention an assignment and you don't realize that it's on the UT college side and you don't find it. So you're like, oh, I guess I don't have to do it. In advanced classes, not just on ramps, I guess, and everything, you really have to kind of, be self sufficient and look for things yourself, checking your calendars, checking every single thing. And that's where on ramps can get a little confusing because you have to make sure you check the college Canvas and you have to check the high school Canvas. And so that can be something that's difficult. But what I did enjoy about OnRamps is, again, the fact that it's just kind of, everything leads into it. I don't have to take a test, but at the same time, I my teachers, there are some amazing teachers at Byron, so they're helping me understand this course level concept. Um, and UT did make it in a way that it is understandable for high school students, and it can be hard to communicate with your professors at UT. Um, but other than that, I think the way the system is built in itself is pretty good and efficient with how it works and what it does. Um, but at the end of the day, before you make the decision of taking the class, you have to remind yourself that it is a college level class that you are taking. They don't consider of like, oh, but it's high school. It is still like you are taking the exact same class. So it will be hard and it will be rigorous.
It that is
And
definitely true. And that juggling the two Canvas um accounts, I can definitely see where that would be a struggle. I would mess up on that.
It's
Camila,
also, I'm so sorry, but
no, go
it's
ahead.
for physics. If, like Camille was mentioning earlier, if you're taking a lab class, it can be hard. If you were taking a lab class, you will have four portals because it would be a lab UT Canvas and then a lab high school side and then a lecture high school side and a lab UT side. So it's sometimes just very confusing and can get out of hand and can be just hard to manage. So you do have to make sure that before you take all these classes, you have good organization and that you are willing to be putting in the effort and putting in the work to be balancing all these things out.
That's such a fantastic point.
um,
Camila, I think I interrupted you, so and I just did it again.
it's all right. If I could add to the third point, because this this is also very important. I feel like reaching out to people is the number one very best thing that you can do. Reaching out to friends who have possibly taken the courses, reaching out to counselors, reaching out to teachers. That's a big one. Uh, for AP Physics, because that's the biggest one, I think. The difference between on-ramps and AP is in the physics courses. I asked my teacher from the beginning, like, which one would you recommend? And that's how I did eventually go on to take AP. So ask the teachers. They're the ones who have been teaching the class, and they know what are the pitfalls or what's good about it, what are the questions. They are possibly, them and people who have taken the course are possibly the best resources to choose.
And many times our on-ramps teachers are also the AP teachers, so they truly do know both sides of that piece as well. Ashmi, what was your favorite on-ramps class?
My favorite on-ramps class, I'm gonna have to go with college algebra. It was just so nice and it was like it felt like a breeze. It didn't even feel hard at all. Versus compared to I'm in on-ramps physics and it's just hard to keep up at times. So yeah, I think algebra, just a nice breeze. So yeah,
The on-ramps people would be happy to hear you say that because that really was their goal
yeah.
to make that a good intro to the class. I see a question that popped in. Can a student take dual credit and AP? Actually, they can take dual credit AP and on-ramps in the same school year at the same time if they want to. It does, create a bit of a heavier load to try to do all of them at once, but it's certainly doable. And as they were talking about physics, I wanted to also throw out that dual credit science classes are difficult as well because typically they require a lab. And since they're mostly online classes, that means a student would have to pick a class that they can then drive to TCC to take the lab portion of it. So that's really what holds us back, I think, from promoting more of the dual credit science classes. But having on-ramps physics is a nice, um, at least extra option. So for lack of a better way to say it, after hearing the four Canvas courses and all of that, definitely something I need to work on. There was another question that I skipped over about the TSI. It says my son's a sophomore. He's not taken the TSI. Do you know when that will happen? And no need to apologize. That hasn't been covered yet. We gave the TSI to our freshmen, um, the TSI English to the freshmen during PSAT testing because our sophomores and juniors were taking the PSAT and our seniors had late arrival that day. So it gave us more staff available to manage the testing and all of that stuff. So that's why we did it with the freshmen and why we chose the freshmen because the other two were busy. So right now our focus is on seniors who haven't met that college readiness benchmark yet, and our juniors who will soon become seniors and need to be able to make sure they're college ready. So we haven't put as much of a focus on the sophomores taking the TSI right now, but our campuses give the TSI during school at least once a month. So any student, whatever grade level, can sign up for one of those tests. There should be some posters around the building with QR codes that they can go to. You can also go to the College and Career Readiness website, and there's a link that says testing on the right-hand side. Just click on that, and it will take you to the different test options, and one of them is TSI. Choose that, and it has the TSI dates that the campus is offering, and students can sign up for it right there. So super simple to sign up for it and get them to take it. We just didn't want to focus on sophomores and forget about the students that are about to walk across the stage. So that's kind of why we turned it that way. And then our next year sophomores will have taken the TSI English already because they did it as freshmen. So, but that was new this year. So it was a brand new idea. Okay, go ahead, Audra.
So there is one more type of advanced class a student can take, and that's just a concurrent enrollment. And this one is really they're doing their high school thing, taking whatever classes, and then they're taking a class at a college kind of outside of the high school day. There's not really any connection between the two. They're just like, I'm on Thursday night, I'm going to go to TCC and I'm going to take this class and not necessarily get high school credit for it, but get college credit for it. Um, and so that's an option that is out there for students who want to try and get some more of those kinds of credits. Again, like dual credit, it's going to be on their college transcript. When it's there, it's there. It's going to follow them. And so, really being conscious of, am I going to put the work into it to get the grade that I want so that my transcript looks good when I get ready to apply to a 4-year college or when I want to start an advanced degree or even, when I go get a job and I've got to turn in my college transcripts. So just making sure that, that's a way you want to go. Again, some benefits. It's less expensive than doing that traditional route. You can be working towards that degree, like that associate's degree, while you're still in high school. And probably the greatest is that there's no connection between what's happening with high school and graduation. But then the flip side to that is you're really doing it on your own, and so the district doesn't provide that safety net and kind of that go between. So it's just a couple of things to consider if a student wants to go with concurrent enrollment.
Now, a little secret of concurrent enrollment that I can't promise will always exist, but it happens right now. Um, TCC is supposed to have dual credit free for any student that's taking dual credit, but concurrent enrollment doesn't count. But right now, if a student is in high school and they're enrolling in a college class, from the TCC perspective, they're counting it like dual credit. So they're still getting the free tuition for that. So they may change their mind on that at any moment, but for now, at least that's another way to get some additional credits. And a lot of our students that are working on trying to graduate from high school with all of their college core classes taken care of, or if they're trying to graduate with an associate's degree, will end up doing concurrent credit because there's just classes that they would have to take that we can't give high school credit for, either because there's not a high school um, class that it aligns with, or because we're just not allowed to give high school credit. For example, PE, we can't give high school credit for any college PE classes or athletic classes. So.
And so kind of after we've thrown all this at you, really the question is, and someone really hit the nail on the head earlier, is which one's right for me? Can I do a combination of these different types of classes? And the answer is yes, you can do a variety. You can mix it up every year or within the year. And it's hard because, as we've said a few times, sometimes it's going to vary based on what college you go to and what your major is going to be, and that's hard to know when you're an eighth grader or a ninth grader. I mean, I know for me, I changed my college a couple of times my senior year, um, but the great thing is even if you don't get any college credit from any of these classes that you take, the fact that you took the class is really the most powerful thing, because that is what's going to prepare you for that college level class when you do get there. And even if you don't go straight to a 4 year university, maybe you go right into the workforce, or you go to the military, or you say, I can't afford to. I got to go to TCC or another community college first. No matter what you do, the fact that you've taken these type of classes while you're in high school with that safety net of high school teachers taking care of you, it's going to make you that much more successful no matter what happens after high school. Um, Once you start investigating colleges and thinking about what you want to do, going to their admissions websites is really a great habit to get into, because you can check and see, like, well, do they take AP credits, and what does that even look like? And so we really encourage kids to try and take a variety of these different types of classes, and being careful about kind of like the student I was talking about earlier, not taking 6 AP classes all at once just to boost your high school GPA, because that's a lot. Some kids do it? Absolutely, but that's a lot to ask a 16, 17-year old to do. And so you want to be careful that you're not taking the love out of learning just to get some extra credits for your GPA, because it may not benefit you that much in the long run.
We've got a lot of students that play that GPA game with the advanced academics classes, and I mean it's a valid game, and it's one that the educational system created. So it's not fair for me to complain about the GPA game, but I do think it's important that students understand that it really doesn't impress anybody after high school. Um, you know what your high school GPA was, what your high school rank was. I always tell people that I was the one in high school that made the top 2/3 of the class possible, because I held up the bottom. Um, I didn't even say that right. See, I'm so bad at math. I made the top 3/4 possible because I held up the bottom quarter. So, it and it hasn't held me back. I graduated from high school. I went to TCC, went on to college, got my bachelor's degree, my master's degree. I've got a pretty good job that I'm happy with, and will, I guess, age out of someday. So.
And I'm wondering, as I think we have like maybe a couple more things, but um, if either one of our ambassadors wants to elaborate a little bit more on, I mean, you guys have already done a really good job of kind of explaining your process and your thinking, but is there anything that you haven't said yet that you want to tell our audience about how to pick a class?
What I would say is finding a happy medium with what works for you. Like Mr. Morris said, and Ms. Rowell said, don't just take so many classes and just, burn yourself with everything just because you want that boost or you want to say, oh, I'm in AP this class, but at the end of the day, you're getting like a bad grade in it. Um, it's it all comes down to what class you're confident in, that you're like, this class I'm pretty good at it and I feel like I'm going to be good in those tests, so I'm going to take an AP class for that. This class I don't think I'm going to do so good just on a test because testing environments can be stressful. I'm just not a good test taker. I'll do on-ramps for that. And then moving on in high school, when honors classes aren't a thing, on level is also an option that you can consider. But if you do believe that you can keep up with the on-ramps or advanced placement or dual credit thing, then I would recommend it um, because it is a high school thing. You do have like those safety nets where your teachers are walking you through it. So it is a lot easier for you to succeed while you are in high school than when you will be in college. And it is true when they say that college professors, they don't really like give you that one-on-one attention as high school teachers do. So when making that decision, you just again have to weigh your weigh the cons of each and see which one like stands out to you more, and it will depend on the subject of each class.
I do agree with a lot of that. And I also wanted to add specifically for AP, something that I found really helpful. If you search up something like AP classes, difficulty or rigor graphic, you can get a graph that actually shows from students who have taken it, just the amount of time that it will take you and the difficulty of the class. And that's also how you can choose. I don't know if they have similar things for on-ramps or TCC, but I know for AP, this was really helpful for me. So it picked out a lot of the classes that were a little bit harder and classes that you could take instead that would also be very good as far as science or history or English or something like that. That would also be good, but were somewhat of a better class to take. And I know also for TCC, there's a lot of classes that are kind of similar. So talking to people who have taken it will really help you differentiate on those like final decisions.
I did not know that there was um, a chart that shows the difficulty of the different AP classes created by students. So guess what I'm going to be doing tomorrow? I'm going to be doing some research. So do you want to go to the next slide, or do we have some questions on the Google form that? And y'all, I know we've kept you late. We got a bit of a late start. So by all means, if you need to go, it won't hurt our feelings if you jump off, but we don't want to just cut things off. And Camille and Ashme, the same thing. If y'all need to jump off, you've definitely put in your time for us today. So feel free to, or you can definitely hang around if you want to as well. So this slide just shows the requirements for the Texas core. So back in my day, we talked about getting your basics. Now it's being core complete. And there's 42 hours of college credits that students have to be considered core complete. So they have to have 6 hours in English. That's typically Comp 1 and Comp 2. So that could be on-ramps, rhetoric, first and second semester. It could be dual credit. It could be AP if they score well enough on the AP exam to get credit for Comp 1 and Comp 2. Speech, that's that freshman speech class that I was talking about at the beginning. They still need it for the college core, so it's not a waste of credit. And for high school, it just counts as an elective. Math, they only need 3 hours of math, so that's one class. That's probably our area where more kids are taking way more math than they need to because they take multiple on-ramps math classes or multiple dual credit or AP math classes, and they just leave with so much credit that there's not often a place for the colleges to apply those things. Because like Audra said, if you're going to go somewhere to be an engineering major, they need you to take their math. I always tease if you're going to go to A&M, they've got to teach you how to count on your fingers and toes. So, Camille, I said that just for you. So, but it really does depend on how the school teaches the math. So I think it's important to just be careful not to have too much. Science, it's 8 hours. That's typically two classes. Creative arts, that art appreciation would count for that. Language, culture, philosophy. Usually that's where economics ends up falling for our students or psychology. Again, they don't have to have a lot of that. They end up getting more because they'll take dual credit economics because it lines up with dual credit government, and they'll take psychology and sociology, and then they just get more credits that they need. American history, their options for the 6 hours there are on-ramps or dual credit. I'm sorry, on-ramps or AP. Government is 6 hours, so that's federal government and Texas government. And then behavior, I think that typically falls into one of the similar categories with language, culture, and philosophy. So those kind of juggle back and forth there, depending on the college. If you add all of that up, it's going to come up to 41 semester credit hours. And that's because there's one credit hour that we can't give high school credit for at all. And I mentioned that earlier, it's that kinesiology class. They've got to have that for the core, but we're not allowed to give high school credit for it because they don't want students taking dual credit athletic type courses to get to work out early for their sports. So that's the why behind it. Okay, go ahead. If you did access or if you did write down the link to our presentation, we have some links here embedded in it that you can click on to get some more information and just kind of follow up on what things count as. If you didn't write that down, it's going to come up on a future slide here in just a second. Right there.